And we are here at Ventura College. We are in the water science department, so thanks to one of our members for helping us get this lovely venue. Pretty soon we're going to be moving over to an actual TV studio, and we're going to be recording and putting this out on public television. So we're very, very excited. There's some new things coming up for BARDS. And I also want to give some acknowledgments as well to our member who's giving us this wonderful venue for free today. To my husband, Mark Clayton, who is my life partner and my business partner. We work together on BARDS, and the input that he provides is absolutely priceless and invaluable. So thank you to Mark for that. So we have a 12-month guided discussion series that provides a pathway for you to create your badass red dress life. And the first 3 months we started with building a foundation, and we started with awareness. The second month was on intention, and the third month we talked about the laws of the universe. All those videos can be found on our YouTube channel, and I'll provide a link below to all of those videos once this is posted on YouTube. And also on our Facebook Live, I'll give some descriptions at the end when we're all finished. This month starts our self-development phase, and we are talking about your authentic self. We're going to be going over 3 different aspects of your authentic self. The first one is, who are you? Who is your authentic self? The second is how you connect with your authentic self. And the third is, loving yourself isn't selfish. And so those are the 3 topics that we're going to be going over today. And so first, I want to start by asking a question, is who are you? So we're going to have our audience here take a minute to write down on their paper who they are. How do you define who you are? So if you're following along, then let's do that at home. Just kind of either keep a mental note, or if you can grab a piece of paper, take a minute or a minute and a half, and write down just in some words or short phrases who you are. How do you define yourself? So sometimes we look at ourselves in different modes, in different aspects. We all have a past. We have a present. Maybe there's future. What do you think makes you who you are? Our live feed is not going well, so we're going to try it again.
It didn't take long to write down what I was saying. No.
Some people define themselves as roles that they play. Some people define themselves in many different ways. All right, so who would like to share out who they are?
I will.
Roxanne?
I'm a woman scientist, engineer, and educator that believes being my authentic self leads to happiness.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice. Excellent. Anyone else?
Yours is so logical. Mine's just a list.
Again, everybody's different.
So, I'm a woman, a mom, bisexual, polyamorous, a daughter, a professional, and a cuddler.
Nice.
That's nice.
Anyone else want to share?
I am a passionate person. I am exploring my identity.
Very nice.
Nice.
I am an artist, I am a life partner, I am a compassionate and understanding person, and I believe world peace starts with inner peace.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Very nice. So one of the things, as I've done this exercise in various venues, is some people go for the list and kind of the roles that we play. some people look to what they do. I'm a professor or a life partner, or I'm exploring. But one of the biggest things that we tend to forget, and especially as women, that we are a spiritual being. Not religious. Some people might call that energetic. But there's a part of you that is separate from the physical being, that is separate from the brain, that is separate from the things that we have manifested in our lives, that makes you the unique person that you are. And that is this energetic or unseen or it's a non-physical component of who we are. And yet, as we tend to define ourselves, we go for the physical. We go for what's in our physical life, what's in our physical day-to-day experience. But yet, there is something more. And so I believe that, when we talk about our soul or spirit, or some people call it an aura, that it's truly that essence that makes you who you are. And when you start seeing yourself from that perspective and you tap into that perspective, then you truly start to understand the full glory of who you are. You are a 1 in 7 billion entity on this planet. There's only one of you. There's only one of you. How magnificent is that? And that I don't believe would happen without this. Because physically, we are all so closely related. We might have some different features, but physically, we are all flesh and blood. We all have, all the same physical features, just arranged a little bit differently. But it is truly the essence, the spiritual piece that makes us the unique person that we are. And while this has nothing to do with religion, this has nothing to do with any sort of belief system that has to do with a specific religion that people have created. But I see it as a universal force of energy, and that it resides within us, and it surrounds us, and it's what connects all of us together. And I always joke that George Lucas got it right when he created the Force in Star Wars. And if you go back to the original Star Wars, when Obi-Wan Kenobi meets Luke Skywalker, and Luke starts asking about, well, what is this Force? And the description that Obi-Wan gives is exactly this. It's that force that flows through you and surrounds you and binds the universe together. And I truly believe that exists, and that's what creates this world in all its beauty and magnificence. And so I see us as energetic beings. I see us as badass red dresses, because all of us that are here that are connecting to what I have to say and what we are collectively starting to create in building Badass Red Dress Society is a group of women who are tapping into their energetic being, who are becoming their authentic self and truly shining that out into the world. And when we do that, we give ourselves, our full selves, as the gift that we are to the world and to ourselves. And so everything in the universe resonates with energy. Our trees, our buildings, our money, our ideas, everything around us resonates with a level of energy. And so if everything resonates with a level of energy, why wouldn't we? And so when you think about how our planet and our universe and everything has a particular order to it, the planets are aligned with the stars are aligned within the galaxies are aligned within the greater universe. And I have to look at all of that and say, is that really just happenstance? Could that truly have just been a random act. And I don't believe it is. I believe that there is universal intelligence, that there is a greater source that is outside of us that brings order to everything in our universe, all the way down to us as individuals. And that when we understand that order from the great down to our individual selves, then we can understand how to tap into that and truly create who we are and bring out the power within us. So some of you may have been brought up with a religious context. Some of you may have been brought up with a non-religious context. Does anyone want to share anything about their background or about how that relates to the concepts that I've shared? And kind of maybe some thoughts or feelings that you're having in the moment? Just go ahead and speak.
I just feel relieved being raised Catholic and really being told and really believing that you have to marry a man, have a family, and that was the answer, and it was not my answer. It wasn't. I'd like to blame someone for it, but that would be easier, but
Right.
it just wasn't what is right for me.
And I think for a lot of people, it's not what's right for them. It wasn't right for me either. I went down that path as well. For some people, it is, and it's not that I would never get married again, but I would get married in that context, and I wouldn't have a relationship in that context because it doesn't fit with who I am and who I'm becoming. And so for other people, how does that play out for you, and what are you exploring around that?
Well, for me, I was raised Baptist, and I felt like it was a lot of constraints. The list of things you can do was very short. The list of things you can't do was very long. And it was like, it didn't solve any problems. It didn't help in any way that I could find. And so by the time I was 18, I no longer practiced that.
There's a concept around religion that as you start to step away from it and see it in a more objective light, that there's a lot of rules.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not conforming to the rules, then there are consequences within that structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the concept is are you willing to adapt yourself to live within those rules, and does that fit for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I felt like that in the Bible, you have the Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
That actually covers just about everything you need right there. So everything else that all these religions thought up, they just made it all up. It's not even in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I just never quite got the reason for that. You know, why they keep making up things that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
I know from growing up Catholic, there's so much about it I'm taking in for me now. You know, like saints and their stories and their struggle. And I can relate to so much of the church, except the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it, the people, the stories, I'm like,
Mm-hmm. There's some good things there.
it's amazing though how much now I'm kind of realizing it's like more than I thought. But
What about some other experiences? Other points of view?
I was raised agnostic, so growing up I really didn't have any issues with this topic. But then as an adult, I was involved in a few different religions, and I had some bad experiences dating guys in those religions, and some heartbreak when they were saying one thing and doing another.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a piece around the rules that they're so confining and so if you don't conform to those rules, then it causes big issues. And then it's how do you continue to move through when you've broken the rules?
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, well, there's the repentance, and then you're saved and all these other things, but why have rules that you're going to continue to break?
Maybe they make the rules so tight, there's no way to live with them without breaking them. I'm wondering
That's
about that.
that's a really interesting point. That is a very interesting point. Any other points of view?
I was raised as Latter-day Saint or a Mormon, so that was really interesting. And as a teenager, about 16 or 17, I followed it a lot. And then as an adult, young adult, I struggled with going back in and out of church and everything. And finally, around 25 or 26, I removed my name from the church because I don't want to be affiliated with any one particular religion. And it's just interesting because there's so much to it, and there's so much that enmeshes in your whole life with it, and it's hard to like break free of that and everything. But I was able to realize it wasn't meant for me. So,
Yeah.
They almost got it right, I thought, except for they had one man and a bunch of wives. Maybe it should have been the other way around. The wife and a whole bunch of
Right.
husbands.
And there are some cultures that have that.
Yeah,
That,
really?
Yeah, that do polygamy. So, yeah. Excellent, thank you for sharing that out. So as you've had these background experiences, how does the concept of spirituality start to play into what you're doing now? So if we take religion and the rules and those constructs out of it, what do you think about the concept of spirituality, and what does that mean to you? I can share what it means to me if that kind of helps the conversation. So for me, I consider myself a spiritual person. I believe in that higher universal intelligence energy. I believe that there is order within our universe that doesn't come from a human perspective. It comes from the energetic perspective. And I believe that I am an extension of that energy in physical form. So when I think about spirituality, it's more of a concept of an overall feeling and connection between humanity and the universe, and how we are manifested examples and beings of that universal intelligence that is playing out here on Earth. So I see the spirit concept is that a part of me is in physical form, but that spiritual part of me still resides out in the universe, and all, kind of encompassing.
Would that include your day as well? Like when you go out in your day, when you're interacting with other people, then that spirit can kind of take over that spirit force, and then
Right.
better things, well, not better things, but maybe your perspective's a little more positive about what's happening around you.
Right. And what I talked about last month was the laws of the universe, and one of the major laws that I spoke to was the law of attraction. And that as I go out into the world and I'm expressing my spirituality in the form of my energy and who I am, that is bringing to me and attracting to me people who match me where I am. So there are times when I'm very upbeat and I'm happy and I'm feeling great and I'm connected, and I get those people and those experiences, and the traffic lights all turn green and traffic opens up where it was blocked before, or a new route comes around, or someone comes into my experience that just enlightens me in that moment. And then I go out into the world when I've had a bad day and I didn't get enough sleep and I'm grumpy, and then I hit every red light, and the clerks are rude to me at the grocery store, and I drop something and stub my toe or whatever. And so there's this flow of energy that as we go out into the world in our physical form, that we are expressing that energy, and the universe reflects back to us in our experience. Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it's more long-term, and depending on how long our thoughts and beliefs and things have been growing, that all interconnects. So as like I look to today, so the four of you showed up today. You are the ones that were meant to be here today, and I attracted you today because you were in that place. You were ready to come. You were ready to receive, and I'm ready to share. And that's the way that this flows. That's the way I see that this flows for me. And so when we are energetic, we go out into the world, and however we are is what we receive back. And so that's what we talked about last month. But it truly is that spiritual being that is within inside you, and we're going to get a little bit deeper into who that is and how that plays out and how you then connect to her.
I was thinking about this spiritual situation, and I think for me, I sort of agree with what you said, because I don't necessarily believe in life after death type thing, but I do feel like that I'm more than just this body. That there's something in there that runs it, it's not the body. And I don't know what it is, but maybe you've described it there.
And sometimes it's hard to put into words, but it's that knowing or that feeling that there is something more. And however we want to define it, that's up to you. This is the way I define it. This is what makes sense to me. You may have a different way of defining it that makes sense for you. And it may not look exactly this way. It may not be exactly what I believe. And this is only my belief. But what I hope to do with this experience is to open the door for you to figure out what works for you. And for you to explore yourself and figure out, oh, this is what it means to me. This is what I believe. This is who I want to be. And this is how I connect into the greater world. So just because I say this doesn't make it true. It only makes it true for me. So you get to find out what's true for you. So, any other pieces on kind of who you are, how you connect? Got some things flowing in there. Ready to move on to the next piece? So the next piece is, how do you connect with your authentic self? So there are many terms that we use to connect with our authentic self. Sometimes we call it our inner voice. Sometimes we call it intuition. We'll call it a gut feeling. It's that sense of knowing something. So as an example, one of my favorite books, and I highly recommend reading it, it's called Promptings. And it's by Cody Bates, Kodybates. And in Promptings, Cody describes how those little nudges, impulses, or promptings to do or not do something, or an idea that comes to you, is that energetic side of us that is our guidance. And so sometimes you might have that impulses, say you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think I'm going to turn here. You're not quite sure why, but you just have this sense that I need to turn here.
So you're not really talking about outside influence from another person.
No,
but an internal.
This is your internal voice. It could be you're in a situation and you hear that little voice that says, back up and walk away. Or you don't want to say that. You really don't want to say that right now. That's that little voice. That's your authentic self guiding you and prompting you and sharing with you.
I need to turn that one back on.
Yeah. A lot of us have turned it off because we are taught that we're supposed to look outside ourselves for influence and guidance. And truly, all the guidance you need is right here. It is right inside you. And I continue to learn to listen to my inner voice, to my authentic self, because I turned it off for so long. And so she'll reveal herself to you. Sometimes it's that physical gut feeling. Sometimes you're in a situation and your stomach starts to hurt. You start to feel kind of achy. Like, ooh, this just doesn't feel good. Again, that's your authentic self giving you some signals to say, pay attention to what's happening and let's start thinking about how this feels. And then your inner voice will also give you the other side, is when you are experiencing something that is so exciting and so just connecting to who you are, you're going to get that soar of joy that sometimes we call it that outpouring or overflowing of emotion. I get that when I really connect to something, if I'm listening to my guidance teachers that I listen to on YouTube, or music does this to me quite often, is it connects with my inner self and with my deep self, and I just burst out crying because it's so overwhelming and the emotion is so strong. It has to physically come out of me somehow, and so it comes out in tears of joy. And so, some people might, jump up and down, woo, and other people may just get this warm, fuzzy feeling, or that, that kind of burning, joyful glow that happens inside you when something really great is happening. That's your inner voice, your authentic self, also telling you, yes, this is good. This is something for you. This is connecting to who you are. So she not only gives us the warnings and the maybe this isn't the path to go on, but yes, keep going. This is the path you want to be on. This is where you want to be. This is a good thing for you. So it's really tapping into those different sides of what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And the interesting thing is that with any relationship, it's a two-way street. So we get a lot of input from our authentic self, and people talk about that. Oh, my inner voice or my gut feelings. I pay attention to those. But we forget that we actually are every moment giving feedback to our authentic self through the things that we do, through the things that we say, through the things that we think. And so as we connect with our inner being, we tend to do it by default, that we're unaware that we're actually providing all this feedback to our authentic self, who then responds by giving us those feelings and ideas and impulses and gut reactions and all of that. And so one of the things that I'm learning how to do is to give more intentional feedback, and intention was number 2 that we talked about in creating our foundation. And so I'm going to start with all of you, because I'm going to give you all a challenge, is that for the next 30 days, I've created I'm calling it a meditation journal. It's very brief, and you can make copies of this, or you can write on the back, or create your own, whatever it is, but I just wanted a representation. And the idea is that I do meditation every morning, and that's been a way that I've been connecting with my inner voice and my authentic self. And there are different ways that we can connect through meditation. I've done a few different types of practices. Sometimes I use a guided meditation. Does anyone else do meditation? Do you want to share a little bit about how you do your meditation?
I don't do it as often as I'd like, but I just do meditation with a bell in the beginning or at the end.
Okay.
And I use an app called Insight Timer, and it really helps because it keeps me centered in what I need to do. But I also do guided meditation sometimes. It just depends on my mood. It helps me connect with my higher power and with my higher self, and it's a really good benefit. Like I said though, I want to be able to make that practice a daily habit.
Excellent. Okay. You indicated you do meditation?
Yes, I like to do a brief meditation in the morning. I just do breathing and a body scan.
Can you describe the body scan? What does that
So
feel like
I
to you?
I'll go either from my head to my toes or vice versa, and go through each part of my body and think, how does it feel right now? And I
very
won't
nice.
necessarily do anything to change it. I'll just observe.
Okay.
That's neat.
Okay.
I do yoga
Okay.
because I've tried regular meditation, which I thought would be, but I'm super hyper, and when I stop moving, I go to sleep.
Interesting.
And
okay.
so it's the weirdest thing. I mean, I don't have any trouble going to sleep. So that didn't work for me
Okay.
because as soon as I start shutting everything down, I'm gone.
Okay.
So, but yoga works good for me.
Nice. And so within your yoga practice, how do you find you transition from kind of that go, always things in your head to clearing that out?
Right, and it's sort of like you. All of a sudden, now I'm in different poses, and that pose is going to be straining some muscle.
Okay.
So I concentrate on that muscle that is now under, and I'm thinking, okay, it's getting stronger, it's getting longer, or whatever it needs to do. And so that's kind of how I do it. Is it
Okay.
I think about those parts that are under a little stress all of a sudden.
And so your focus narrows to that part of your body, and everything else kind of drifts
Yeah, I don't
away.
really think about other things because I'm thinking about the pose and how to hold it, and that keeps me.
Okay.
So it's not really meditation, but it's kind of similar. And I'm awake.
Right, yeah. That's an important part of meditation, is that we're not sleeping. Sleeping provides other things for us. It provides another type of reset for us. But meditation is that way to connect with that authentic self, or our universal intelligence, or energy, or whatever term we want to use. Some say higher power, some say source energy, whatever it is that you want to call it. And so is in meditation, as you go through, however you meditate, whatever that process is for you, I came up with this journal to just write down very briefly a few thoughts about what you felt that did for you, how you felt doing it, how you felt coming out of it, and how you feel that will move you forward and benefit you for the day. And then take a sticky note and cover it up. And then go, no more, if you're doing what I would call a traditional meditation, where you kind of sit and quiet your mind, or you're doing your body scan, no more than 15 minutes. I have copies. Yeah, I have copies. Yeah. And then if you're doing your yoga, however long that takes you, and then at the end of yoga, you would write a few notes. So we talked a little bit about meditation practices, and do you want to share anything about the meditation practice you've been working on?
So I've been listening to the, I don't want to call it something different,
A guided
a
meditation.
guided meditation. And what I do is I listen first thing in the morning before I have any other thoughts. Sometimes I forget and it's later, but once I'm done, throughout the meditation, things come to me to keep in mind during the day, or just reminders of things about how to be more authentic. And then throughout the day, things come up. And I kind of know where to go. It's like really interesting. Don't take the freeway. Take the side street. Take the freeway, and there's an accident. It's just interesting things. And it's not a big deal. It's not like my life is like a catastrophe because I did the wrong thing. It's just that things, that's probably why
That thought
little
came to
voice
you.
or that thought came to me.
Right. So as we're going into our meditation state, we want to use that time to also, kind of like you've mentioned, is connect to that higher piece of you and really be listening. So those would be things that you would write down on your little meditation journal, and then cover it up, and then go to the next day and then cover it up, and then at the end of the week, reveal them all, and then write a quick little reflection about kind of how that week went for you in your meditation practice. How did it feel? Was it challenging? Did your mind wander? Did you find some benefit from it? Did you find relief from it? What maybe some things that you're working through, you're working on, or a breakthrough you had, or a dear friend of mine told me, and I've experienced this many times, is that sometimes we have a breakdown before we have a breakthrough. And so when a breakdown is coming, or you're in the midst of a breakdown, know that that is actually your turning point for the next big piece that's going to lift you back up, and that your breakthrough is coming very soon. And breakdowns truly are just a part of our process, because when we are doing this kind of work, we are letting go and shifting a lot of these very solid beliefs or long-held beliefs that we've carried with us, or we were exposed to at a young age, and now we're sifting and sorting and trying to figure out what parts of that do I take? Do I reject it all? Do I look at it objectively? What feels good to me? And so, I like the idea that we're open to many different ideas, whether they're religious concepts, whether they're spiritual concepts, they're different types of meditation practices. And again, this is you finding your journey, your authentic journey to create your badass rigorous life. So I have a page for everybody, and I will also have this in a downloadable form, so there'll be links to that in our discussion group here. And so, moving on, let's see. So any other final thoughts on meditation or how to connect with your authentic self, or ways that you find you connect? And as our member here shared, that through that meditation, she's hearing that inner voice of go here, go there, don't do this, do this, and that even if we don't listen to it, it's okay. It's really okay, and that's actually a very nice segue into this next piece. So thank you for setting it up so beautifully.
You're welcome.
So any other final pieces or discussions on that?
Well, maybe. I know that I ignored my inner voice for a long time, and didn't realize who I'm supposed to be. And it took a long time for me to figure this out.
Yeah,
But I'm getting there.
we're so glad you did. So glad you did. Yes, thank you. So the segue is now into the idea that loving yourself is not selfish. And again, I believe as women, we are socialized that we are to sacrifice ourselves to everyone else, and that we become last. And that shows up time and time again in marriages, in being a mother, in the workforce, even in politics or religion or whatever roles that women are playing out in the world, that women are still today second-class citizens, and that we carry a majority of the burden for work, home, family, and even concepts of spirituality or religion within the context of life. And that's a heavy burden. That's a really, really heavy burden. And so anytime that we step out and we embrace ourselves, it is looked upon as, well, you're not fulfilling your role, or you're being selfish. For a lot of people, they may look at that as something really, really negative, that we are stepping out and we are actually embracing ourselves and loving ourselves and putting ourselves first, which is what men tend to do. And that they're socialized that that's okay for them to do. It's okay for them to put themselves first and go out and get the career. It's, to sacrifice being with their family to go out and play golf with the guys on the weekend, to sacrifice time with their wives to go out and go to business meetings, or to do whatever it is that they're doing. That they're allowed to do that. That's part of their cultural upbringing and expectations. But yet when we try to step up to that, we step up and say, hey, I'm going out with the girls tonight. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Are you going to make dinner for the kids? You're going to get their pajamas all set up. You're going to have everything ready to go so that I don't have to do anything but just, plug and play. That doesn't work. And so the concept of women loving ourselves and putting ourselves first truly is still not fully embraced and accepted. And yet this is what BARDS is all about. This is about taking your authentic journey, about taking back your power, about creating the authentic self of who you are and who you are meant to be, and to share your unique gift with the world. And only you will figure out what that is as you go along your journey. And it was very interesting because in the book Promptings, Cody shares a story about how he had this prompting to call his brother, and he didn't. He hadn't talked to his brother in a long time, and the next day his brother was an electrician. He was up on a rooftop and he had an accident and died. And so he didn't get that chance to connect with his brother prior to that experience. And that really left him with that concept of, why don't we listen to our inner voice? Why don't we tap in? Because our inner voice truly knows. Our inner voice really is the guidance that we have within our lives of, you know, what can we do and how is it going to benefit us? You know, as you said, even the little thing of, oh, take the side road, don't take the freeway. You know, taking the freeway wasn't necessarily bad. It just didn't get you there as fast as if you'd gone the easy route. You know, and so sometimes our authentic self and our inner voice will try to show us the easy way, the lighter way, the more joyful way, whatever it is. But sometimes we don't always pay attention.
Can I share something else about that? Because what I realized too is that when I got to the person that was waiting for me, they weren't concerned that I was late. And growing up, it was always really important to be on time. So I'm realizing that the people in my life that don't care that I'm late are the people I want more of in my life. I don't want people that are going to get upset because I'm late. Because I really have a hard time being on time. It's not like that's like the end all. So that was kind of, something good came out of it as well. But it's still, you know, it still wasn't. I was like, oh, I probably should have, you know, listened and done that instead.
Right, but again, as I'm moving through this, if we start to say, I should have, you're putting a judgment on your decision that really doesn't need to be there.
You can't change it anyway.
Right, at that point you can't change it anyway. So the decision that you made was the decision that you made. And it's not good and it's not bad, it just is.
You just try to learn from these
And then you
things.
learn from that experience. And so, you know, so kind of think about, let's take a moment about when you had a little voice in your head and you didn't listen, or maybe you ignored it, you know, and you've already shared yours. You know, and then kind of what happened, what was the outcome of that? Could be something big, could be something small, could just, you know, be an everyday occurrence, or it could be, you know, something bigger. Does anyone want to share a time when they realized, oh, that voice was telling me something, and I went another direction?
I'm sure we have thousands of these
Oh,
things.
right.
They're hard to find.
So my big one was that when I started dating my late ex-husband, I knew within a few months that I probably shouldn't have stayed with him. There were things that were starting to happen. I was not feeling good in the relationship, but I felt at that point I was kind of already in the relationship, and I feel like even within a few months I was getting committed in this relationship. I was very young. I was 19 years old. And it was that, well, you know, once you're in a relationship, you got to stick it out. You got to make it work. And, you know, my parents had been married for a long time, so it was, you know, well, stick it out and make it work. And
that's what society
that's what
teaches us.
society teaches us, even very young, that, you know, once you're in a relationship, you know, even though maybe you're not married yet, you're supposed to make it work. And it ended up being not a healthy relationship, but I stayed for 25 years. altogether 25 years and endured a lot of things that I shouldn't, that, you know, again, I you know, even I use that language, that I shouldn't have, that I could have avoided, but yet I am deciding not to look back and be regretful. Because it was an experience, and out of that experience I have an amazing, beautiful daughter. And had I not had that experience, perhaps I would not be standing here today. And yes, my life would be in a very different place, but that's not good or bad. It just is. And so I'm going to embrace that this is where I am, and love where I am, and actually look back and appreciate the experience that I had, knowing that I made the choice to stay.
I think related to that is we humans have a hard time appreciating where we are. You know, if we just look at all the good things that we have, we're always looking in the future. Here's what's going to happen, the here and there, or at least I am. I think everybody does that. And I guess, you know, it's tied to what happened in the past. That's how we got there. And so we might associate a bad decision with a bad situation. When
Right.
really it might not be that bad. And if we appreciate the good things, then we can be happy where we are and still strive for new things. But
Absolutely.
that's just not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point, is that the past is the past and we can't change it. And so why do we continue to pull the past up with us and carry that baggage with us wherever we go, instead of saying, yeah, that was what it was. And I can leave that over there. And this is where I am, and embrace where I am, and love where I am. And yeah, this is so exciting. And I know there's more coming. And I know I'm creating more, and I'm being more, and I'm meeting more people, and I'm developing new things, and I'm constantly learning and constantly growing from where I am now. And in 3 months, I'm going to be somewhere different than where I'm standing today. And I can look forward to that, and I can embrace where I am now. And that's part of loving yourself, is understanding that your past is your past, and it's not going to change. And so why do we keep bringing it up? One of my spiritual teachers has a wonderful story. She says, as you're walking down a path, you come across a snake. And this was so funny because it was about 2 months after I heard that, I actually was walking down a path and came across a snake, an actual snake. It was really funny. And so she says, you walk across this path and the snake, and you're frightened. The snake, it frightens you. But you keep walking on your path. But now you've passed the snake. But you keep bringing the fear of the snake with you. But the snake is behind you. It can't hurt you. It's gone. But you continue to carry that fear of that snake with you, and that memory of that snake. Oh, remember that time we were walking down the path and that snake came out? Why do we continue to go back to the past, to those negative things, or those experiences that maybe caused fear, or that we had some ill feelings or bad feelings or hurtful feelings? We continue to go back to those when they don't serve us here and now. But yet we keep bringing them back and bringing them back and bringing them back and carrying that baggage with us. We all talk about, oh, somebody comes with baggage. We all have that tendency to carry our baggage, and it keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
If we could just take the lesson and
Yeah.
leave the rest of it
And
behind.
leave the rest of it behind. In fact, I just got back from a 2-week trip to London, and I've taken quite a few things with me, and I probably brought about 20% more back with me, and my bags were really, really heavy coming back. And it was an amazing lesson, because I learned that if I go traveling abroad again, I will not be taking that much stuff. I will not be lugging around these big giant suitcases full of stuff that I ended up using maybe half of.
Right.
And so it was a great lesson, but yet I had to go through that process of literally dragging the baggage around with me for 2 weeks. And it kind of made that impact. And so, it's kind of interesting how this conversation came up
Gives
about
you a
that.
good visual, too.
It does, yeah. You know, you're dragging those bags, and they keep getting heavier and heavier because the more experiences you keep pouring into them, and then you just keep dragging them along with you. It gets tiring.
Yeah.
And yet we forget that we have the power to let go. We can let go of that baggage and leave it behind.
Mhm.
And then when you get a little bit further down your path, even if you do look back on it, you're going to see it from a different perspective. And it's not going to look so big and heavy and hurtful anymore, because now you've gone down your path. And as you know, when you look at in perspective, the further away you get from something, the smaller it looks. It's still the same size. It's still back there. It hasn't gotten any bigger or smaller. But your perspective of it has changed.
There's one thing like about self-love that I try to remember is the shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know, where you should have, could have, would have, and just remembering that it's like you said in the past, and just let it be where it is, and focus on where you are right here, right now, in the present moment. Mindfulness, so to speak.
Absolutely. These are all practices. When we talk about meditation practices, we talk about mindfulness practices. These are things that we literally, you even said, I want to get to a place where I'm doing my meditation daily, where it's my daily practice. And that takes a shift in what you do and how you do it. It's changing those habits that we create. And in fact, I'm listening to an audio CD right now on breakthroughs, and one of the stories he says is, if you go to work every day and you've been in the same job for 10 years, you take the same way to work every single day. That's become your habit. It's unconscious. You get in the car and you just drive to work, right? You take the same path every day. You go the same route, but if someone were to come along and show you a shortcut that had 10 minutes off your commute, how fast would you then make that change?
It's hard to
Would
break
it take
habits.
you 20 days? Or do you think within 3 or 4 days you would have that new path down fast because, hey, it just cut 10 minutes off my commute and I didn't have to sit through that traffic on that road with that signal that just lasts forever. I can take this route. Doesn't take long. If you actually find that pathway that serves you, you will make a change much faster than you think you can. So again, it's that perspective that, people tell us it takes 21 to 90 days to break a habit. No, it doesn't. It's about what you choose to make happen in your life. And when you make a decision and you go for it, you're going to make that change. And it's going to be much faster than you think it is. Because it serves you and it benefits you. It's when we make changes that we don't see the benefit, or we really don't believe that we're going to get the benefit out of it that we want, that it takes longer. So that was just a little side note. But you're right, to kind of go back to that concept of regret is, what does regret serve you? How does regret serve you?
You get nothing out of it.
Keeps you stuck.
Pity party.
Yeah. And trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
I have absolutely been there. And it took me a few years after my divorce. I was very, very angry and very finger pointing and, blaming, and everything was his fault and all of this. And my new partner, Mark, he was amazing to help turn that for me and say, really go inward and really think about what that relationship was, the benefits that you got out of it, and the fact that you made a choice. You made a choice to stay.
I can tell you a story about a lady I know. And so about 15 years ago, her husband died, and during that she lost this house. They had a big nice house. She became unemployed. She was living in her car and all this stuff. But during all that, different people were helping her along. They were giving her scholarships and money and other things to help her. But she never gave up, telling her story about how pitiful everything was and always needing more. And I think no matter how much people helped, it wasn't enough. She could never get back on that. And she's been doing it for 15 years. And she's still doing it today. And I mean, all of us that have tried to help her, tried to get her out of it. And there just seemed to be no way to pull her from that. That's her. I don't know. It's become her all of a sudden.
Right.
She let herself become
The victim.
the victim. Exactly. Good description.
It is
Thank you.
victimhood.
And she won't pull herself out of it. I mean, no matter how much we tried, she wouldn't come out of it.
No.
That's her cloud.
Because being a victim is very powerful. It is very powerful because not only do you feel sorry for yourself and you absolve yourself of all responsibility, you get other people to then play into that for you. So not only are you not taking responsibility, but you then get other people to take the responsibility for you, which then continues to feed your lack of personal responsibility.
It's really a vicious cycle.
It is.
When I think I left my husband and, 3 years ago, and the divorce is final, someone told me 3 years isn't bad to finally be here. It took me 3 years to get here.
Yeah.
And so now that you said, how many years has she been doing
15
that? So that,
years.
I'm doing pretty good, right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing great.
During that, I even gave her a job. And she took the money, but she wouldn't do the work.
Because she wasn't responsible for her situation.
Right.
And she wasn't
Well,
responsible
she deserved to get this,
to
but
get
she didn't have to
she
do
didn't have to
anything
give
for it.
anything for it.
I didn't understand it at the
That's
time.
victimhood.
Can I share something else,
Please.
Kat? I just had this thought because of, teaching infant toddler for so many years. And that, if you leave children alone, like babies, they will just get to the next stage far more quickly than if you try to help them. So I think it's the same thing with adults. So it's not about like, oh, they didn't get there, they didn't do it. It's that sometimes sometimes adults do things to put things in the way. If you prop up babies into the sitting position, they don't learn how to roll, and then it takes them longer to walk.
I wonder if that's...
It's interesting just to put it all together like that, because
Yeah.
developmentally what we do naturally comes a whole lot quicker than most people think or say.
I wonder if that's the situation with married men, because wives are always trying to make them better, and they don't really want to change. It's a similar, trying to push them to where they don't want to go.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Even if it
I
is
went
better,
through that.
even if it is better, they still don't.
And they'll go
It's
a
not
little,
them anymore.
they'll go a little, and then they're just like, no,
And-
this
and
is
then they
not me.
regress.
And then they go back to it's like one step forward, 3 steps back, and
Yeah.
you're just like, what happened? I thought we were getting somewhere.
Yeah.
That was my marriage.
Yeah, mine too.
15 years of that.
Yeah. Yeah, 20-something for
So you
me.
have to just make sure they're already where you want them.
When you get them,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't try to make them what they're not.
right.
too
Or,
bad.
or at least be able to accept who they are. And is the person who they are, does that person mesh and match with you?
And it's hard to find out because during the dating thing, everybody acts different anyway. They're on their best behavior possible.
Yeah, yeah. That is one thing I do so
Except for me.
appreciate.
But most people do that.
I very much appreciate about my husband Mark is within the first week he showed me what he called his bad side. He showed me all what he called negative things about his life and where he was and the place that he was emotionally, financially, just kind of everything. And he was not where he wanted to be. And he said, I tried to scare you off. I took a month to try to scare you off because I knew the power of our connection. If I got too close and things didn't work out, that it would hurt so much not to have you in my life. And so so I was able to see beyond where he stood in that moment and see the potential within him.
He's an abnormally smart guy.
He is. I agree. I absolutely agree.
That doesn't happen
No.
very often.
So, Kat, did he actually try to break up with you or no?
He didn't break up with me, but he showed me all his dirty laundry.
So that if you wanted to,
So if
you
I
had
said
good
at that
reasons.
point, I could say, you know what? yeah, that's not for me. I am not gonna deal with that.
He gave you that opportunity.
Gave me that opportunity.
And you never did.
Never even thought. Wasn't even an option for me. Because again, I could look beyond where he stood in this moment and see the potential of where we could go and what the relationship when we connected, and some of you know my story and some of you don't. But the connection we have is so intense and so deep and long, very, very long, energetically, that I knew he was just, he was in his breakdown mode. And his breakdown mode, he's now, it's been 4 years, and he's now on the upswing. But I knew it would come. I knew it would come, and I saw along the way all the pieces he was putting in place to get to the point where he is right now, where he's 2 weeks away from making his first major turning point of getting one of his houses sold in Seattle. And so for us, that was one of the big major pieces. So
He had to build that bridge.
he had to build all of that up to the place where he could get to that point, within also the development of our own relationship, and then seeing within the context of the relationship that we were creating what he wanted out of his future. And so as he's gone through his personal development and his growth, my growth and our growth together, we know the direction now that we're headed in, and those pieces are now being put into place. So it is quite amazing. It is really amazing. But I also see that there's that element of time. And so many times we say, oh, well, it's taking too long, or it's not here yet, or when is it going to come? When is it going to happen? And I'm learning that it's not about when something happens. It's not about reaching a destination. It's not about the end result or the outcome. It truly is about the journey. And that when we are satisfied at every moment along the way of our journey, the pieces that we desire show up. And once that piece shows up, it then sparks the next desire for us to reach for. Because, so it's like when you think about, the wealthy, they achieve their houses, they achieve their cars, they achieve their careers, they achieve the $1 million in the bank, they achieve the luxury vacations. And then what? Are they happy? Many of them are not. Many of them are not, because they've worked so hard, they put so much of their focus into that end result, and now they've achieved it. And then what? What happens next? They don't have that journey of, oh, well, when this car comes, then I'm going to enjoy it. Oh, but now I like that car. Oh, well, let me sell this car and get that car. Some don't go that route, but some do. And those are the more happy ones, is when they're continuously on that path of what's next. And you look at the inventors, they don't just necessarily invent one thing. They invent one thing, and that sparks, oh, well, what's the next? What's the next thing that I can work on? What's the next idea?
Writers are the same.
Writers are the same way. You don't have, a writer generally that's a, very popular and high-paid writer that only writes one book.
Right.
They continue. They continue the story, or they continue a series of stories, or they write, a multitude of books that are different because the new ideas keep coming. Film directors and writers and actors are all the same way. They're playing new roles, they're writing new scripts, and we all have that potential too within our scope and what we're doing, whether it's music that we're writing, or children that we're working with, or people that we're teaching, whatever it is. There's always that next piece. Where else can I go? What else can I do? How do I continue to grow on my path? And this all connects into how we love ourselves. When we tap into our authentic self, then we continue to grow, we continue to move, and it's all about the journey, and it's not the destination, because truly there is none. There's stopping points along the way. When you take a vacation, what's your end point?
Mm.
What's the end point? When you take a vacation, where do you end up?
Back home.
You end up back home, where you started, right? But did you go, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to end up back home. So why go?
Well, you got new experiences.
Exactly.
So you gained something.
You gained something because you took the journey.
And you filled up your suitcases with more stuff.
With more stuff. Yeah, exactly.
So when you travel, you need to leave room in your suitcase, not pack it, but leave
Yes.
room to put new in.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
Not like what you did, where
Yeah.
you took too much.
I took too much, and then I ended up stuffing it back. Yeah, I actually ended up leaving things there. And I knew that in the beginning. I actually took several pairs of shoes that I was going to get rid of anyway, and then I ended up throwing them away or leaving them in hotel rooms and just trashing stuff, because then that made room for stuff to come out.
Right.
So yeah.
Plus you had plenty while you were there. But that's what you think when you're traveling, especially very long distance like that.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to necessarily replace things.
Yeah.
That you want everything, because I've done this many times. I took way too much stuff.
Yeah.
But generally I've been happy about it because I had everything I wanted.
There you go.
And more.
Yep. Yep. So the final piece that I want to bring up is take a moment and think about what is the most important relationship that you have right now. Who's the person that you have the most important relationship with right now?
My most important relationship at this moment in time is with myself.
Who else?
I wrote the same thing.
Oh,
I did too, but mine was a little different because I said it has to be me. I forget. But if it's not me, take me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down.
Yeah. It's you.
I am totally concentrating on myself all summer long. That's it.
And you're right, we are not taught that our most important relationship, anybody, men, women, anyone, we are not taught that the most important relationship we have is with ourselves.
Where most married people will give their spouse, or at least if they're
Yeah.
happy with their marriage.
Well, what's the term? This is my better half.
Yeah.
No, I'm my better half. This is my partner. You
Yeah.
know? This is
Exactly.
the person I've chosen to share my life with, or the people I've chosen to share my life with.
Right.
But it's truly the one relationship that we don't give as much attention to, but it's the one that if you truly want to live with abundance, liberation, and freedom, that yes, it is definitely the one you have to give the relationship to. Yeah.
I haven't been doing that enough. And
Most of
really
us
enjoying
don't. So, and that's why we're here. We're here to help you focus on you, to help you develop who you are, whoever you are. We embrace all of you whoever you are in your moment, at whatever point in your journey. That's what BARDS is all about. So, any final thoughts on your authentic self, on self-love? We're going to wrap up here.
It's about self-love, but it's about us all being connected to say that life is like a web and we're all a strand in the web, and whatever shakes one part of the web shakes the other part of the web, and we're all connected. So
Absolutely. I've actually used that analogy many times.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah. Some people call it the butterfly effect. That,
Yes.
that interconnection truly is global and universal. That even things that happen out in the universe do impact us at some point. Sometimes it impacts us directly, sometimes indirectly, depending on where we are in the connection. But it does impact us. And so when we are self-aware, when we are connected to that higher source, then we have the ability to influence how that information comes in, how we process it, how it impacts us, and then how we reflect it back out into the world and into the world.
What's that expression, 6 degrees of
Separation.
separation?
Yeah, that everybody in with anybody in the world, you could say, within 6 people, you're connected to anybody in the world. And it's interesting because I have definitely experienced that. Everything from, I'm an Uber driver, and so I get, on the first day I came back, second day I came back, I went back to work, and I picked up a family from England that was
Wow,
here
you just
visiting
got
in
back?
Ventura. And I had just gotten back from England. Last
funny.
night I picked up someone who grew up in Issaquah, which was a small town in Washington, about 10 miles from where I used to live in Washington. So, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
That connection is real.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is real.
Can I just ask a question? So
Absolutely.
is that the Kevin Bacon joke? And it's
Mhm.
also the butterfly effect?
Yeah. Well, they're a little different. So the
Okay.
butterfly
Relate.
effect is more on
Relate.
impact,
Right.
and the 6 degrees of separation is more about how we're connected.
So the 6 degrees of separation is the.
It's the connection. It's like the web. It's
Right.
that spider web of, how the strands come together. And truly, again, I can understand that within, someone that you know from your Facebook group, someone who's over there, someone else, in Australia who knows this person over in Istanbul, and, it's a small world. It truly is a small world.
That's really how the network of this group even works, is
It
we
is.
meet people, we bring them, and
That's right. And that's how BARDS will grow.
mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other final thoughts? All right. Well, this concludes our guided discussion on your authentic self. So look for information that will be posted when this is on YouTube, and also under the live description for Facebook. And if you joined us, thank you so much for joining us on either Facebook Live or for watching us here on YouTube. And please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and you'll get updated information by joining our email list as well, and you'll find links in the description to that. BARDS is growing, and we look forward to having you along the journey. This is Badass Cat, and I am here to walk your journey with you, and you are in good company. Cheers.